Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TBR Live. Interesting conversation with interesting people. We are entering our 5th season. And before we go any further, we have to take a moment to say thank you. Those of you who have viewed, those of you who have shared, those of you who have decided to come back for a little bit more. We certainly appreciate your support and we appreciate your love. With all of that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. Our first and very special guest is a dear friend by the name of Natalie Fletcher. We're going to talk about life and career. We're going to talk about what it means to be a muse and a whole lot of other things. You don't want to miss this one. TBR Live. Interesting conversation with interesting people. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Our very special guest today is Miss Natalie Fletcher. We're going to talk about life and career, some other stuff, and we might finally get around to telling a few jokes. Welcome to the show, Miss Natalie.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, so first question: who is Natalie Fletcher?
Who's Natalie Fletcher? That's a complex, put together person. I think all people have many layers. So I will probably start in that Natalie Fletcher is purpose-wise is a muse. Is something that I consider myself to be, and that's one who inspires. It's a acronym when I discovered who I was probably working towards being after my grandmother died. Stands for motivation, understands success and excellence. But I'm a person who just loves to bring inspiration to conversations. I love to bring inspiration to the projects I work on. I love to bring inspirations to people and connecting them and connecting their vision. So that's me. One thing about me, I'm also just a woman who has gone through, I guess now evolving in many different struggles, and that's very humble, very compassionate. I'm a sister, I'm an auntie, I'm a daughter, I'm a great friend. So I would consider myself all those as roles as I play, but I'm centered around being a muse with that. So I use that as far as who I am to individuals as they call on me and they need me, and as I service my community as a person.
Okay, all right. So for those of us who are not sure what it means, what does it mean to be a muse?
What it means to be a muse? Well, it means that you offer some level of inspiration to help people become a little bit more enlightened to their purpose and their identity. A muse was used in ancient Greek times as somebody that inspired the king or the queen be able to make decisions and to be great. So that's what I say is, being a muse is like somebody might have, you may see things out where someone may say, oh, that's my muse, like that's my muse. I have people like consultants or friends or people in business like, no, Natalie, you're my muse. I was trying to figure it out. Not that I'm like boasting myself, but you're a person that brings peace and rest, but just by being there, you can bring clarity. And a lot of times that could be just by listening. That doesn't always mean that you have a word of advice. It doesn't always mean you have strategy. One thing it means is that you have a presence that allows people to elevate within themselves. And sometimes it's great to know when it comes to being amused that people that you probably don't know, like they're not in your internal circle. That's when you know you're amused, and they come back 3 and 4 years later, or you see them or you chat with them, they're like, hey, you remember that time you told me blah, 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 blah? I always thought about that. Or when we went here, that was a lot of fun, man. And you've always been this, and that was a big moment. And I thought about what you said. So that lets you know, like, oh, wow, like, I didn't know I inspired. I was myself, but, I'm intentional about what God has given me as a gift of personality and communication and a heart when I interact with people and when I interact with projects, because even in your work you can inspire great things or build great things. It can be the foundation of something great, but it could be the spark to a new mission. Everyone plays an integral part in how society works. So that's why I say that's what it means to be amused, to be motivated, to be able to understand, to be successful, and then just work in excellence. So that's what that means.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay, so I know you as a speaker. I also know you as a writer. So, do you have a favorite of those two?
So I have went through this process of understanding, okay, answer the question that which one is best. I love conversation. So now I think, how I looked at being a speaker, and then in the last few years, I discovered that I'm more of a conversationalist. Like,
Okay.
I like talks like these,
Okay.
where you can sit and talk to somebody, or you can sit on a panel, and if I can give like three good nuggets, if somebody in 10 minutes can walk away with three good nuggets, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
Being an author is excellent because that's your not only are you self-discovering within yourself in writing and trying to communicate with the voice that you want to deliver, because you're thinking of somebody that you don't even know that you're communicating to. It's a cleansing process. So it's kind of hard to say. As I moved into being an author, I think I started really pursuing being an author like 2 years ago. Like, I wrote one book and then came out with a completely different, and I still have this book on my laptop and a couple other things. But I found, you know, great peace in being able to discover myself as an author, to be able to write and communicate from my voice. But if I would say, I love being a conversationalist. I think because you get the engagement back. So they're kind of like apples and oranges for me. If you like both, they both have equal value in different purposes that they serve.
Okay. All right. So, the instigator in me just can't resist. So let me ask you this question: what's it like being African American, female, a believer, and a forward thinker in the current environment in which we live?
Um, I, it can be tough. And I was having a conversation with one of my friends as more things come to unpack themselves, with just being fed up, and being fed up with any type of systematic racism and that type of thing. And it's kind of like at your front door. Like, you've been raised, I would say, in my family, it's tough because you've been raised in a way to move and think in a world that was created not for you. And in order for you to have things that you would like to have, and in order for you to be a leader and to be successful, there are things that you can't naturally be yourself. And when I say that, I want to take this back as a kid. And I think, children or women, or one thing is a big conversation, it's your hair. Now I'm 36-year-old, and now my hair, I'm wearing my hair how it naturally grows. Not that anything has ever been wrong with my hair, but and being in the South, I've worked in corporate environments where before I walk out the door, you know, of course I love all kinds of styles, but it's the conversation with Black women like, why do I have to think about my hair and how should I wear it the way it grows or not? Why do I need to think about before I go to a job interview? Oh, should I straighten my hair? Will that make me get the job more? I mean, and I use that as a point because you think about growing up, the conversation that your parents have with you when you go places. The conversation that we have and the conversation that our counterparts have had when they're kids is completely different. Their kids can move and shake and play and, oh, they're just kids, they're just playing. Our conversation is, hey, you need to act like this, you need to do this, you don't need to talk like that, or they are going to think that you're not intelligent, that you don't have any home training, that so you live in this world where you're constantly having to prove yourself, and so you adapt that way. And so it's different between young women and young guys playing and hanging out for us than it is for others. And I think that makes it tough because you get to a point where even in society and working hard and trying to be successful in your career, you're still walking around doing these things. It's like you're playing this strategy game. I can't be too aggressive, right? I can't be too straight to the point because then I'm angry. You know what I mean? I can't, you got to pick your battles. You know what I'm saying? I gotta go chuck it up with this person. I gotta go dap it up. I gotta know a little bit about this. Whereas, you're not always taught to invite them in on what is your culture. You're taught to kind of merge in so you can know a little bit more about their culture so you can get ahead. So you learn how to diversify, but you don't learn how to diversify naturally. I think you've been kind of put these thoughts in because I was raised by parents that grew up in the 60s, that grew up in a period that it was even more tough. So you have been taught to be able to be acclimated and to work within the society so then you can get the things that you want. So I think it can be very hard to be able to be that way because you have to reframe your honesty. You have to sometimes redirect your words. And it's good to see now we're talking about 2020 that, I mean, you have to create an entire role for people to understand how to work with you, which shouldn't that have been something in the first place? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's these conversations that are starting to be had, bring the attention. Oh yeah, come over here, bring the attention over me. This is how you actually really need to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Or this is how I would feel more comfortable if we interacted this way. But I do feel like there are those tough weights that you have on yourself because you're also a representative trying to shift a paradigm. And I say that because for me, when I was in middle school, I started to have a behavior problem. And it's just, now I look at it, I think it was just, 12-year-old girl, 12 to 16. That's one of them. That was one of those years. Personality, everything, attitudes coming out. Why this? Why that? All of those things, and not hanging out with the right friends, or just being in a school system that didn't really work well. And my mom was an educator, so she was very critical on other educators. So she was the only African-American female in a school, Marshall County, called DAR. She was the speech pathologist out of the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. Well, the last year of my middle school, 8th grade, she's like, no, you got to come out of the school. You got to come to school with me. I'm like, what? I got to leave all my friends. But the first conversation was, I left a predominantly Black school to go to being the only, next to my mom, Black girl on a campus of an elementary school, middle school, and a high school. And my mom had to have these conversations on the drive with me on how, hey, this might happen. You need to do this. They have great teachers, but I really need you to excel. I really need you to show who you are so they don't think all Black people are this way. Like, you're 13, you're 14, and those are the conversations that you have, which you keep having, but that can carry a lot of weight. It can carry a lot of pressure because you're also still developing your own personality. And I think other counterparts, they are allowed to be who they are in the season that you're in. You're talking about 12, 13, and 14. You don't know who you are yet. You're a kid. You want to go to the mall, you want to go to the movies, you want to dress up. You're impressionable. But to try to I now look at it, because I guess I am a leader, but I was given leadership responsibilities at a young age, and wasn't really well. But my main thing was I didn't want to disappoint my mom, and I didn't want to disappoint my grandmother and everything that they worked for. So I think that's what it's like being, a Black female. And then, I mean, it's a whole can of worms. We're not just talking about work. We're talking about even with dating, with relationships, the gaps. There's so much behind it. And then being a woman that is a believer and loves God and loves everybody, you really have to push to knowing who your core and who God is in your life, so that you can balance the anger or the frustration that you already have with being who you are with the color of your skin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So, with all of that being said, if you were elected president in November, what's the first three things you would do?
Okay. Oh, I would put my money into getting rid of COVID. Like, just let's start with that.
Mm-hmm.
We want to go outside and play.
Yeah.
Like, no BS. Like,
Yeah.
I would, whatever we could possibly find, do, like, and then I mean, I don't want to like say it, well, I'm gonna say it like it's like, I mean, just tell the people what it is. Do you have a solution or not? Okay, you don't. Okay, this is where the funds are going, because everything's upside down. That, and then those, honestly, who aren't working. I mean, for me, I think you need the middle class to drive the economy and the unemployment rate and everything that's going on. You have so many people in multiple classes and structures who are affected with this. So I would try to do something to fix. I don't know a whole lot. I'm awoke, but I wouldn't say I spent a whole lot of time on it. But I would do whatever it took to fix that and fix the economic structure in order for people across the board, who not lower class, poor class, middle class, well, we all can kind of function, because I mean, local economies need their small businesses. Small businesses need the middle class. If none of these people are making any money to pour into small businesses, because small business doesn't have big corporations money, then nobody wins. You know what I'm saying? No, we have to be able to thrive in our communities in order to do that. And then I think the third thing would be, and this is a selfish thing, I would delete everybody's student loans. Like, let's just get rid of everyone's student loans in the world. Like, so I don't know if I should be president or not, but I think those are the three things that I would do.
Okay. Very good. Okay. So, healing. We've heard a lot about healing in terms of races, in terms of a lot of times the sexes. If healing is something that we're really interested in your view, um, what's the first step in getting to that healing?
Healing. Okay. I need to maybe unpack it. What you mean healing
Sure.
emotionally, healing as a people,
As a
forgiveness, healing
as a people,
as a people.
yeah.
Healing is gonna, yeah, that's a long road. Because one thing I've come to understand in personal healing, it doesn't happen overnight.
Okay.
Um, it just doesn't. I think it takes more community in togetherness. I mean, if there's more projects and togetherness that we can do for our small community, that's why I say, like, if it's small group community into a bigger community into a city, I think we have to be able to come together, and we have to understand that, sometimes there's a time to be a chief and there's a time to be an Indian. And we have to focus on what is the greater good moving forward. And we have to understand that, one, in healing, not everybody's going to jump on board. And so that's a personal thing. You know what I mean? Everything's going to tag in because not everyone's going to be ready to move forward when others are ready to move forward. So there comes that education, and there comes that love, and there comes that, support factor that can help people get to a healing place. I definitely think it's gonna take more other actions to get us there. You know what I mean? If anybody's ever been hurt, healing is an individual journey where you learn to accept that, okay, this person may never change. Like, they may never make everything right ever in life. This reparations, none of that may never possibly happen as much as we should get it. It would, I mean, if I got it, I'd be like, okay. Maybe we could take a step forward. But I definitely think it's gonna take time. It's gonna take the next generation, and the generations to come, just like where we're at here. But I think we have to not, there's so many distractions that we cannot lose focus. So when you look at all those that have come before us, it was so tight and it was so focused, and everybody was really working to get these equal rights. And then somewhere in the middle, like right in the 70s, comes more distractions. And now we're off to doing our own thing. And we still have these certain inner city problems, even dealing in the 80s, the crack epidemic and all of that. And then we recover. We're like, oh, well, Black women make a lot of money. They're the most educated. They're blah, blah, blah. And then now we're in our own individual space. So I think healing is a collective effort that takes partnership, and it also takes the removal of ego and title attention, because you also have those who lead, and we don't mean to be this way, but everyone has an agenda. So I think healing will take some time, and if we can pour into our next generation on what happened and how we did it, like if there's some type of playbook, something similar to the Bible for Black people or something, maybe there is one or something like, hey, yeah, you take this and you go by this and we'll keep this thing going. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
that's my thought. Some of it is made up.
I got you. Well, that's why I asked. I want to know your thoughts. What do you have coming up? What are you working on right now?
Well, I have, I am in real estate. I've been really working on my real estate business and that transition, serving the Middle Tennessee area. I mean, I have a passion to help people find places to plant their feet, especially my people. But it's your best way to get some type of wealth is to kind of own your own space. What I do have also is my book Scars. Untold Stories
Mhm.
to Heal the Trouble, which it's a collection of me and a couple other authors telling stories on that can help overcome. My portion really just talks about overcoming, you know, the dream, trying to get the dream job, trying to get the dream business, and
Mhm.
the rug keeps. What do you do when the rug keeps getting pulled out from under you? And what I learned and
Yeah.
how to grow and let that put you into the space that you're in, which put me into real estate and really
Mhm.
focus on being an author. Not only that, on my site, I mean, of course, I have my catchphrase: "Have faith, be focused, stay fly." I have shirts, and I have another network that I'm building called Boston Brunch, and so that's something that I'm working on as a mastermind for leaders and high achievers to jump on and connect and build relationships. I love brunch, so I have that, and then I also have a journal book that I've been working on, and it's called Today is Your Day: 31 Mental Vitamins to Get You Out of Your Head and Into Your Purpose. So
Okay.
those things, there's the creative part, and then just mainly focusing on how do I serve my area better in being in real estate. I broke my entire life down finally. I think we come in like, oh, I want to be this big mogul, I want to do all these things, and you realize people who are moguls have lots of money and they have people who can go and do them for them. And so I had to break it down on what my capacity is, and that's really buy, sell, invest real estate, and write books and hold conversations, and be amused. And so that's my part in this world that I'm committed to sticking to.
Okay. All right. So if people want the book, if they want to buy the shirts, if they want whatever that you have available, how do they find you?
Oh, they can find me on my website, natalietheMuse.com. So that's NATALIETHEMUSE.com. I'm on Instagram as Natalie the Muse. I'm on Instagram also as the Real Estate Muse. And my shop, it's called the Stay Fly Shop, because my key things is have faith, be focused, stay fly. You do those three things and you live your purpose every single day. And so that's where you can find me. And you can find me on LinkedIn as Natalie Fletcher. So I love connecting with people, even if people want to just chat. I love, like, sometimes I just message people who I like what they have going on just to hold the conversation, because everybody needs a care call. Everybody needs a care text to know that what they're putting out there, just because you don't have thousands of followers doesn't mean that what you're putting out there may not affect somebody. So I always want to encourage people who start to not give up, because this took an 18-month cycle. It took, you know, losing a dream job to put it all in play, and to understand that when you hear people like, oh man, I really love the story, I love this in the book, I love that, sometimes you can't let the numbers and popularity get in your way of the purpose of why you're doing what you're doing. So I love
Mhm.
connecting with people all the time. So feel free to connect with me anytime. I'll respond.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Well, that's all we have. Thank you very, very much for your time. I enjoyed this and look forward to doing it again.
I know this was a lot of fun. I mean, you know, who gets to be on a YouTube show every day, you know, like that's real cool. It's cool what you got going on. It's
Thank
exciting. Um, one day we gotta have you in a hot seat. Who
you. Sure.
interviews you?
Nobody yet.
So who asks you the questions?
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody
right.
yet.
Nobody yet.
So
Yeah, but I'm open for it.
yeah, you know,
Mhm,
so yeah, that's
mhm.
not, yeah, yeah, finding ways to do that. So that's
Absolutely,
cool.
absolutely. All right. Well, I will be talking to you soon, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, ma'am. My pleasure.